Hello, I'm Hillary Richardson, Coordinator of Undergraduate Research, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about finding reliable sources for assignments. We're going to briefly discuss what it means to have a reliable source, where to find different kinds of reliable sources, and where to get help finding these resources. First, let's discuss what reliable means. You've probably heard of fake news and know that there is misleading information all over the place. But often, the kind of source you need will depend on the kind of assignment you're doing. The key is to recognize bias in a source and in yourself, and address them accordingly. For instance, if you are looking at the news coverage of a certain event, you might want to show how various news outlets covered it, and you might even be able to point out how some demonstrated certain prejudices. How do you know if a source has a bias? Let's look. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. We all have preconceived ideas and beliefs, so recognizing these in ourselves and others is important. Consider what you know about the author or the source itself. Are they considered an expert in the topic? Do they have credentials to go with what they're saying? Consider the purpose of the source. Is it to inform, to sell, to persuade? Consider the language that's used. Does the language paint an overly negative or positive picture of its subject? Finally, consider what other sources say about the same topic. Are there conflicts? Do they affirm similar opinions? All of these will be clues into the meaning and the context of the source. Okay, now that we have discussed what to do when you find a source, let's talk about where you might go to get some sources. For that, it also depends on what you're researching. First, I'm going to talk about getting information for cultural and current events. Then, I'm going to talk about getting information on works of Spanish language literature. Okay, first, let's pretend you saw the movie Coco, and you want to know more about the idea of an animal spirit guide, like the character Dante. A great way to get background information on an unfamiliar topic is to look at encyclopedia articles. If you have access, a subject encyclopedia or a book on the topic are usually good ways to get substantial, researched information. Possible sources could include this encyclopedia on Mexican and Central American mythology, or this book on Oaxacan ritual and popular culture. These are available in the MUW library, by the way. I searched Mexico in reference materials and Oaxaca in all items to find these. You could also, and hear me out, look at Wikipedia entries. I know! But listen, a Wikipedia entry is only as good as its references. So if you see a note on the page that says something like, "This article needs additional citations," consider a different article. And remember, encyclopedia articles are just shallow wading pools of information. They are meant to be gateways to more information. So read or skim over the article, then get to the meatier bits by scrolling to the references section. You can find links to additional websites, journal articles, and books, all things that have done more than cast a shallow glance at your topic. Consider those references too. Something with a DOI or journal name might be more substantial and objective than a magazine article or someone's blog. To find more things like what you see on the reference page, you can also do the same search on the big search bar on the library's homepage. The results on this list will vary, and the relevance of each item will depend on what you need. If you're looking for an overview of a topic, a research starter or an encyclopedia article will do. If you need something that has broad coverage on a dense topic, look for books or book chapters. Academic articles will do a deep dive on a specific topic, and magazines or review articles are often short pieces that express a common opinion. Now, let's pivot and say you're looking for sources to talk about a work of Spanish language literature. Researching literature is a different kind of research because you're looking for literary criticism or an essay that deeply explores themes, elements, and historical contexts of a work of literature. For something like this, I do not usually recommend using internet sources like Wikipedia or Google because the library has specialized databases for this reason. Clicking on databases from the library's homepage will give you a list of search engines for certain subjects. For researching literature, I recommend using MLA International Bibliography, the most comprehensive database for literary criticism, and starting your search with either the title or the author of the work. If your work has an English translation, try searching for that as well. Here you can find book chapters, articles, and other resources that engage in rich discussion about a text. Use the full text icons to download the full article, or the Interlibrary Loan button to request a copy from a different library. Unlike things you find using Google, these resources will always be free to you. Finally, remember that the process of searching, finding, reading, and interpreting resources can be complicated, but there are people whose job it is to help you. To get help finding a resource, using a database, deciding on whether or not a source has bias, or citing an article, ask someone at the library. Clicking on Ask Athena from the library homepage will take you to a place where you can start a chat with someone in the library, send an email, call a staff member, or set up a one-on-one research appointment. We love talking about and helping people with research, so call on us anytime. The library team wishes you the best of luck on your research.